Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk all about Red Guardian because as we know today Kabam has dropped all the information about the upcoming month, and then upcoming month in all honesty doesn't seem like to be the most exciting month in the history of MCOC. In general, there is no big piece of content being dropped. Obviously it's not quite yet time for Hulkbuster beta changes to go live either, so we're not going to have that champion. Basically for the next month we're going to have side event, which is kind of going to be like a version of Rifts. And other than that, we have two new champions to talk about. Now, I have already made a video about Black Widow that's coming out, which is kind of an interesting champion, but to be absolutely fair, I'm much more interested and keen at Red Guardian, because I think he is going to be a quite cool addition to the contest, and the whole premise of him being discount version of Captain America and his shield consistently being able to break is kind of funny to me, at least. Either way, so yeah, let's get that picture up here. Red Guardian champion spotlight, and yeah, look at that beard, man. Either way, let's jump on to a different scene. This is directly in Kabam blog right now, so let's discuss his abilities and try not to make this video too long, because I always keep on talking for too long, so my apologies guys. Either way, I'm not gonna read all the bio and stuff like that. The base idea is that Red Guardian has a shield, he can inflict debuffs, he has access to slow. You need to manage this shield and shield charges, because otherwise it can break and then it's going to go on cooldown. And he can refresh his debuff with heavy attack, so he will have a heavy attack playstyle type of thing, so he might not be a champion for you. I have personally kind of warmed up to the playstyle to a degree, especially in this case where he can consistently try and refresh all sorts of debuffs, and any champion with slow debuff, in my opinion, is at least worth considering for a rank up. Alright, so let's go on to the base stats. Prestige 10,620, identical to new Black Widow. It's quite high, quite up there, not quite in top 10 I believe anymore, but it's still decent prestige option as well. So character class is science, so just like Captain America, he's a science champion, so I'm going to get another addition for science class. I kind of wished he would be a skill class, because I think skill class needs a boost much more significantly than science one does. And yeah, this champion does look much more exciting than Black Widow, for me at least personally, initially. Anyway, so basic abilities: stun, trauma, slow, and vulnerability. And another very interesting thing, never gains a buff, so Red Guardian can't gain buff, which can sound bad, but if the champion toolkit doesn't rely on getting buffs, it definitely is an advantage against stuff like Spite, against some other things that they mentioned here. So yeah, I do think it's cool. I do like it. He's gonna make Dormammu fights easier, I guess, and yeah. So he cannot gain buffs, keep that in mind. Block unblockable attacks, we're gonna get to that, and burst physical damage, cool. So his weakness is reliant on debuffs, like majority of the science characters are, to be fair. So yeah, basically champions like Void, Mr. Fantastic, so on and so forth. Most, if not most large portion of science characters rely on debuffs, so that is to keep in mind. Reliant on heavy attacks and low health pool, but he's gonna have insane perfect block chance, which also in return will give him really long parry stand duration and let him bypass limber to a degree, if I may add. That's gonna be super useful. Anyway, so abilities. Active shield. Red Guardian can't gain buffs. Whenever a buff attempts to trigger, he gains +1 durability for his albino shield. Instead, cooldown 0.8 seconds. So effectively, this is actually very good to note that he's kind of technically have like this Stark enhanced Spider-Man mechanic, where whenever you're low on these charges, you can just dex a couple times and you can build him back up if you have to. There are other ways to do so, but this is a very cool thing to know, and I think it's going to be important kind of like bit of his playstyle, where occasionally you just gonna have to weave in a dex here to maintain your shield. Now, that ablative shield, the shield, I'm gonna call it the shield. Anyway, starts each fight at 9 durability and can stack up to a max of 10. Each blocked hit removes 1 durability. So you start with 9 basically, so that's a cooler version of Stark and Spidey's mechanic, where you have to build them up from 0 basically, or start from 3 if you have Blade Synergy. So basically start at 9 of these charges with a maximum of 10, and basically when you're gonna go to 0, we're going to discuss what happens then. Each stack of durability increases perfect block chance by 5%, perfect block reduce incoming damage to 0. But there's an additional side effect to higher perfect block chance, and that is extended parry stun duration. And we all know the long parry stuns the OG Captain America's has, or Sunspot has, so on and so forth. So his stun is going to be basically equivalently long, I believe. So that's going to be really helpful to bypass Limber, since he will be reliant on this kind of like parry playstyle. And yeah, each blocked hit reduces the chance, but there is a way around it, which we're going to talk about. So while shield is intact, Red Guardian can block heavy and unblockable attacks and gains 1400 block proficiency. So he can block unblockables, fair enough. Blocking a heavy or unblockable attack reduces shield's durability to 0, where all hits of the incoming attack can be blocked. Okay, so you immediately bust your shield if you block unblockable. When reaching 0 durability, the shield is fractured, entering cooldown for 8 seconds. This cooldown increased by 300% each time fracture occurs, so it's something you don't really want to do too often. When the cooldown ends, the shield is repaired at 7 durability. Good to note. Right, so on fracture, carbonadium shards from the shield burst onto the opponent, inflicting a stun debuff for nearly 2 seconds. That is a very cool ability in my opinion, because it's going to be annoying if you're facing him, because every time you hit his block, you're going to have to count those shards, because he will stun you effectively if you reach down his shield to 0. So you're going to have to be careful whilst facing this guy, because if you're not going to pay attention to what's happening, you're just going to randomly end up being stunned and get your ass whooped. But yeah, that's fair enough. So whenever you fracture, or whenever you basically block an unblockable attack, you're going to stun the opponent as well. Inflict a trauma debuff for 3 seconds. Trauma causes each hit to deal additional 70% of the damage recently dealt as a burst physical damage, max stacks of 3. So this is going to be a very important mechanic, and note that it's only 3-second duration, but it will kind of always come with a stun as well. So basically going to be, you stun the opponent, and then you have to wail at them, ideally with heavy attacks, because heavy attacks can refresh all of the debuffs on opponents, so including this trauma. Well, not all, but including trauma debuff. And the fact that you can stack it up to 3, it's going to be really cool, because so you can end up dealing 210% of your damage that you deal normally as additional burst of physical damage. So that could potentially end up some really cheesy heavy spam tactics there. So I'm really excited to how this is going to work. Now, heavy attacks. Gain 400 attack rating for each unique debuff on the opponent. Refresh all slow, vulnerability, and trauma debuffs on the opponent. So with heavy attack, you're going to be able to refresh debuffs and hit very hard. And refreshing this trauma debuff, you're going to have additional huge amount of burst damage following that up. And then if you kind of like get into a good position where you can spam 3 heavy attacks and keep refreshing this trauma and do a lot of damage, and that will deal more damage. It sounds like really exciting kind of rotation. Now let's compare. So 402 attack increase with his base stats as a 5-star being 2600. So that's what, 1/6, 20, 30%, 20%. Math is gone out of my head. So 5, so it's about 30-something%, I think, attack increase, which is good. I think, no wait, 20-something. Either way, so it's a decent chunk of attack increase. Math is not in my head right now. I mean, Jay would be pissed off. Anyways, let's move on. Special 1, shield charge. On activation, inflict a non-stacking slow debuff for 12 seconds, reducing the ability accuracy on the opponent's unstoppable and evade effects by 100%. Opponent with a natural class advantage cannot be slowed. So he's another science champion with access to slow, which is awesome. I love it. Slow debuff is pretty much one of the most powerful debuffs in the game, in my opinion. And yeah, that was almost kind of like enough to sell the character for me, and the fact that there seems to be a very high burst damage output rotation does sound very promising. I'll be honest, I'm interested in getting this champion. While the opponent is suffering from slow, Red Guardian's power rates increased by 25%, so that's also quite useful, and that's going to be like your go-to strategy in the fight. You're going to want to start with a level 1, and that's going to increase your power rate, then opponents can't evade, and you can just keep refreshing that slow throughout the fight, so you're only going to have to throw it once. So yeah, very solid kind of like game plan, I guess, for the champion. So special 2, on activation, if the shield was intact, gain 859.2 attack rating. Cool. If the shield strikes the opponent, the shield is fractured, removing all durability. Each stack of durability removed grants an additional 322 attack to each hit of this stack. Duration of this attack, any debuffs inflicted last 100% longer. Now that's cool, because after this special attack, that means that you're gonna shatter your shield, means you're guaranteed gonna stun your opponent for very long duration, because 1.9 seconds last 100% longer, so you're gonna stun him for 3.8 seconds plus stupefy, so it's gonna be like 4 or 5 seconds stun there, and you're gonna have the, what is it, vulnerability, not vulnerability, but this my memory, where's my memory, trauma debuff on opponent for 6 seconds as well. And hopefully that refresh duration is also at the 6 seconds, so hopefully it doesn't refresh the short duration, so that would actually make it somewhat manageable to keep it up for a longer period of time. And yeah, by the sound of it, the level 2 is going to be your like big damage daddy special attack kind of thing. And it sounds very exciting, especially because it comes with a guaranteed stun after a special 2, and then you can just go to town with the guy. And special 3, if the shield is active, its durability is set to max. If the shield is fractured, its cooldown ends immediately, so it's a quick way how to restart your shield if you have to. Don't wait to hide the cooldown. 100% chance to inflict stun debuff, cool. Inflict a non-stacking vulnerability debuff for 20 seconds when attacking a vulnerable opponent. Critical damage rating increased by 1.2k nearly, and decreases their block proficiency. So the ideal rotation, I kind of suspect, would be that you start the fight, you get to your level 1, you drop your level 1, and then you get the slow debuff on the opponent, and you increase power rate. Then you get your level 2, you shatter your shield on purpose, you deal a lot of damage, but still, since slow is active, you try to get level 3, you get your shield back in order, you inflict vulnerability debuff, and you keep refreshing those debuffs, and ideally you spend pretty much the entire fight with opponent having these 3 debuffs active, and thus your heavy attacks will hit for an absolute ton. And then you can keep smacking your level in between level 2s and 3s, I guess, to kind of like increase the amount of sabotages you have. So he does sound like he has quite a lot of promise in longer fights. It does sound like he could be used like in Abyss and stuff like that. Because yeah, if you can build him up like that, then opponents can't evade, so it's going to be relatively safe. So that's quite interesting. I definitely see a lot of potential here. Maximum durability of the shield is increased by +1 for every 40 signature levels, max increase of 5. So if you max him out, he's going to go up to 15 of these stacks, and that will also increase the max perfect block chance that the guy has to 75%, which is a very good chance that the block damage is going to be reduced to 0. Well-timed blocks have a 100% chance to prevent a durability loss, and this is the most important bit here, because like this, you're still always going to be safe when you parry attacks, so you're gonna have a much easier time to manage your shield. And then trauma, slow, and vulnerability debuffs last 30% longer, which is also going to be something that's extremely useful. And yeah, so he will highly rely on being awakened for the ease of use, in my opinion. And yeah, the signature ability does sound like a very useful and necessary. So all in all, before I get into the synergy bit, so my final kind of whoopsie daisy, final verdict of the champion would be that he does look amazing. I am quite excited for him. Any champion new with slow is fun. Any champion with high damage burst is fun. And this is a champion that sounds like he's going to have relatively good damage output on his heavy attacks by spamming heavy attacks, but also ability to build him further when you can keep on stacking your trauma debuffs. So it sounds like my type of champion, to be fair. It sounds like something that I would definitely enjoy using and having, so I will be trying to get this guy. I don't know if I can go for him in Arena or it's going to be White Cavalry Crystals, and definitely nowhere near as excited for Black Widow as I am for Red Guardian, because I think he might be absolute powerhouse. I'll be honest. Yeah, so this is probably the champion that I'm arguably most excited this year, because this year has been fairly big letdown when it comes to new additions to the contest. So yeah, slow debuff, lots of damage, high perfect block chance, long parry stun. Obviously there are downsides. His health pool is relatively small, relies on having debuffs on opponent, relies on heavy attacks, which can automatically disqualify him for some fights, but that unique quirkiness with being unable to gain debuffs but still stacking, being unable to gain buffs but stacking debuffs on opponent, I'm liking it. Okay, so let's go for synergies. So, family reunion with Black Widow, Deadly Origin. So this is the same thing that I read before. Basically, you can go unstoppable while charging heavy attack, which is useful for some matchups where landing heavy attacks will be trickier. Black Widow starts the fight with her passive weight. That is going to be very important for Black Widow. Eastern blockers with Rhino and Abomination. Rhino starts the fight with a passive Fury granting plus 30% attack rating for 20 seconds. While the Fury is active, Rhino also gains 50% increased ability accuracy and inflicts the opponent with a slow debuff. Now that actually sounds like, if Rhino has access to slow, that kind of automatically makes Rhino a much better champion. And assuming that 50% increased ability accuracy also is going to make him go unblockable a lot more often. Obviously, I'm not saying Rhino is going to be a good champion, but there's going to be some cool things Rhino can do. So unfortunately, yeah, Rhino is so bad that nothing short of miracle will make him a good champion. So it's going to be fun to see and test, but it's not going to make him an amazing champion. Abomination. All attacks have 50% chance to inflict poison, dealing 70% of modified attack over 10 seconds. Now that sounds OP though. That definitely sounds, that sounds like really potent. So you have 50% chance to inflict poison, dealing 70% of your modified damage. You're gonna be able to stack so many poisons in opponent, man. This is like what Abomination kind of like needs in his base kit. So I'm definitely kind of eager to get this champion, even for these synergies, because it's gonna make for some really cool videos, I'm telling you. Okay, so Living Steel Curtain, unique synergy with Unstoppable Colossus and Colossus. Personal Fury buffs gain an additional flat 10% chance to trigger and last 200% longer. Additionally, landing a heavy attack pauses all personal Fury buffs until another one is gained. Now, again, unfortunately, nothing short of a miracle will save Unstoppable Colossus, and definitely not a Fury buff. So yeah, no, not interested. Colossus, activating any special attack has 50% chance to trigger an unstoppable buff, lingering 1.2 seconds after the attack ends. That is kind of interesting, because Colossus already is an absolute damage powerhouse, and this makes him like much more suited for like can't stop, won't stop nodes. So yeah, I'd want to have it. I wouldn't be overall relying on it all the time, but I'd want to have this one. It sounds quite interesting. Okay, Magnificent Mains, unique synergy with Sabretooth, Red Guardian. While the shield is fractured, gain indefinite passive fury, granting 10% attack rating. Nah, that's whatever. You don't want your shield to be fractured for most part anyways. And 10% attack rating isn't anything over the moon. Sabretooth, potency of fury effects are increased by 10%. Again, it's alright. There are better ones for Sabretooth. Enhanced with Carbonadium, with Omega Red. Red Guardian takes 50% less damage from incoming attacks while the shield is at max durability. Now that is an interesting one. That is definitely an interesting one. So could be really useful. I kind of like it, because with the dex mechanic, keep in mind what I mentioned, and if you have him awakened, every time you parry, you do not lose the charge. And you start at 9, and your max stacks at 10 initially. And you just need to dex once, gain that buff, gain additional charge, and you take 50% less damage from incoming attacks. That sounds quite a cool ability. I like it. Could be interesting. Omega Red, when the fight begins, an opponent's inflicted with up to 5 death spores. Again, I don't think it's overall too... It could be helpful. We need to kind of like see what kind of change it does, but I don't think it's that amazing. It kind of will increase his damage out. Recommended Mastery is Despair. A lot of debuffs. Cool. Inequity, yeah. Resonate, cool. Stupefy, for sure. So yeah, that is Red Guardian. So once again, I am interested in Red Guardian. I think he will have some good damage output. I think with spamming heavy attacks, if you kind of catch the opponent at a time when they are like at almost no power, and you can like drop 3 heavy attacks in a row, that's going to be like a massive burst amount of damage. Especially you can increase the amount of those, not sabotage or the vulnerability and whatever debuffs you have there. So yeah, I think he will be interesting one. I do like him and I will try to get him. Let me know what you guys think. Am I being overly optimistic about this champion? Do you like Black Widow more? Do you like Red Guardian more? Are you excited? And yeah, that will do for today. I hope you guys like the video. And just before I go, let me leave you guys with a nice picture of Baby Yoda, because who doesn't love Baby Yoda? If in case you are somewhat special in this world and you do not enjoy a photo of Baby Yoda, well then I have nothing else to say to you. But either way guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I am out of here. See ya.